the Circuit de Barcelona Catalunya, a track that ruthlessly exposes any weakness in a Formula One car. On a blistering hot Sunday afternoon, it became the stage for a profound and perhaps permanent shift in the balance of power. Lewis Hamilton, after a grueling 40-race winless streak, took his maiden victory for Scuderia Ferrari. This was more than just an emotional milestone. It was the definitive proof of a systemic, cultural, and technical revolution within the walls of Maranello. For years, Ferrari has been an organisation crippled by a blame culture, paralysed by a fear of making mistakes. But the arrival of the 7-time world champion has acted as a powerful catalyst, forging a new, aggressive, and relentlessly innovative team. This is the story of how Lewis Hamilton has not just joined Ferrari, but has fundamentally rewired its DNA. A deep dive into the technical upgrades, the aggressive race strategies, and the new, unified work ethic that has transformed the prancing horse into a legitimate championship contender. And crucially, this brings back the question of who is the number one driver at Ferrari. With Hamilton taking all the glory, many are now wondering if Leclerc needs to take the back seat. Welcome to Front Lockout. Chapter 1. Shut Up and Race. To understand the magnitude of this resurgence, you have to remember the depths of the crisis that consumed Ferrari in 2025. Hamilton's debut year was a nightmare. He inherited a team operating under a pervasive psychological weight, a blame culture, cultivated by years of intense media scrutiny and a fear of failure. The frustration boiled over when Ferrari chairman John Elkann publicly rebuked Hamilton, telling him to focus on driving and talk less. It was a moment that embodied the old, rigid Ferrari hierarchy. But Hamilton's response was a masterclass in leadership. He refused to yield. He publicly defended his work ethic and, crucially, he erected a psychological shield around the factory. He absorbed the corporate pressure, allowing team principal Frédéric Vasseur the breathing room to begin restructuring the team's flawed processes. That confrontation was the crucible that forged the resilient, aggressive entity we see today. Chapter 2. The Hamilton Effect. With the corporate noise marginalised, Hamilton's true value began to manifest. And the most compelling evidence of this cultural renaissance comes directly from his teammate, Charles Leclerc. In a remarkably candid interview, Leclerc explained how Hamilton's presence had fundamentally rewired the team's DNA. He spoke of a new, aggressive push across production, innovation, and risk-taking. He noted that in the past, the team had been inherently cautious, afraid of making mistakes. Hamilton introduced the relentless, iterative work ethic that had defined his era at Mercedes. He showed the engineers that failure in the pursuit of innovation is not a punishable offence, but a necessary data point. As Leclerc observed, the team was no longer just happy to be there. This was facilitated by a profound mutual respect between the two drivers. Hamilton publicly dubbed Leclerc Mr. Ferrari, praising his dedication. In turn, Leclerc recognised the value of Hamilton's approach. By establishing a unified front, they streamlined Ferrari's developmental feedback loop, allowing engineers to receive clear, congruent directives from both sides of the garage. This singular focus drastically accelerated the team's resurgence. We will dig into this in a separate video to figure out if these two would remain friends or whether it's only a matter of time before a big fight breaks out. Chapter 3. A Victory in the Making. The narrative that Hamilton's victory in Barcelona was a surprise ignores the overwhelming evidence that it was a mathematical certainty approaching its event horizon. The SF26 chassis was a vastly superior machine from the start, and Hamilton's early season form was a clear sign of what was to come. He secured back-to-back second-place finishes in Canada and Monaco. These were not lucky results. They were the product of raw, sustained race pace. A critical piece of this puzzle was the resolution of the braking crisis that had caused Leclerc to crash out of his home race in Monaco. In the old Ferrari, this might have sparked a prolonged political blame game. In the new Ferrari, they took decisive action. For Barcelona, Leclerc adopted the exact carbon industry brake configuration that Hamilton had lobbied for all of a previous season, a system that provides the specific bite and modulation he requires. With mechanical confidence restored, Ferrari arrived in Barcelona with the most aggressive upgrade package on the grid. It was a barrage of 8 distinct aerodynamic modifications, a complete overhaul of the floor, front wing and diffuser. The correlation between the wind tunnel data and the on-track reality was immediate and spectacular. Hamilton qualified on the front row and the stage was set. Chapter 4. The Crucible of Catalunya. The true test came on Sunday. The track was a blistering 51 degrees Celsius, a brutal environment for the tyres. Mercedes, on pole with George Russell, seemed to hold the tactical advantage. But the new Ferrari, empowered by its risk-taking ethos, went on the offensive. While most of the front-runners started on the durable medium tyre for a standard two-stop strategy, Ferrari boldly fitted Hamilton's car with the softs. It was a declaration of intent, and it was a masterstroke. Ferrari brought Hamilton in for a super early pit stop on lap 11, an aggressive undercut that threw the Mercedes strategy into disarray. They had committed to a blistering, high-risk three-stop strategy. The closing 20 laps were a showcase of Hamilton's legendary racecraft and the sheer dominance of the new Ferrari aero package. He decisively outmaneuvered Russell to take the lead and pulled away. Behind him, the Mercedes operation fractured under the pressure, with championship leader Kimi Antonelli suffering a catastrophic engine failure while trying to keep pace. Hamilton crossed the line an astonishing 19 seconds clear of Russell. The drought was over. The dream had been realised. Hamilton's masterclass in Barcelona has radically altered the landscape of the 2026 World Championship. The narrative of Kimi Antonelli's runaway, uncontested title procession is officially under severe threat. Antonelli's engine failure slashed his lead over Hamilton from a commanding 66 points to a highly manageable 41. With a long season still ahead, that deficit is a rapidly closing window. And writing off Charles Leclerc would be a profound miscalculation. While his 81-point deficit seems large, his season has been marred by mechanical misfortune outside of his control. With the new, reliable brake setup and a car that is now arguably the class of the field, his unmatched, raw single-lap pace becomes a lethal weapon. The dynamic at Mercedes is also becoming increasingly combustible. George Russell will not willingly yield to his 19-year-old teammate. If the two Mercedes drivers start taking points off each other, or worse, taking each other out, it provides a massive, unimpeded path for the unified Ferrari duo to rapidly close the gap. While Leclerc is not a number 2 driver, that might soon become his fate if he doesn't shake off the rust. Frédéric Vasseur has successfully established a harmonious, mutually beneficial dynamic that is now poised to launch a ferocious, sustained assault on both the drivers' and constructors' championships. The prancing horse has not just returned to the front, it has returned with a ruthless, highly calibrated vengeance. We would like to hear all your thoughts in the comments. Do you see Hamilton winning his 8th title?